We have 4 documents to read today. Each one comes from the archives at the Norfolk Record Office and has been chosen especially for this new children's themed Reading from the Archives. This family-friendly event centres around the lives of children over the past 2 centuries, looking at their experiences on holiday, being evacuated during the Second World War, and talking about daily life growing up in the countryside. Our first letter comes from the collection of Smith, Parker and Frostick family papers and photographs. The letter is undated but believed to be from 1855.
Dear Uncle Thurlingham, I now take up my pen to send you a few lines, and I hope they will meet you quite well, as thank God they leave me at present, but my little brother and sisters have got a whooping cough, but I hope they will get better when the warm weather comes. But now, Uncle, I must tell you what I am doing. I am keeping close, being a responsible fellow. I am only 7 years old this Christmas, but my master gives me 6 weeks. But I must tell you I like going to school best, for the weather is very cold, but I hope I shall soon have done. And I have an uncle, John Frostick, a soldier, and I have seen him, and I should very much like to see you, and I hope I shall before many years. Also, I do not know you, only as I hear my father and mother talk about you, dear. Uncle, I hope you will excuse me my mistakes in the letter, for I have not had much practice. I have only done 2 copy books, so now, dear Uncle, I must conclude. My sister Fion with me in kind love to you, believe me to remain your affectionate nephew, Moses Frostick. P.S. This is the first letter I have attempted to write. Moses F.
This letter and photograph come from the collection of John Hastings Turner, called An Unimportant Chronicle, written September 1939 to May 1945. The letter is written by Ursula, daughter of Hastings Turner and Laura, his wife. Ursula describes being evacuated from Norfolk to family down in Middlesex. Also included amongst the pages are newspaper cuttings and printed leaflets produced during the war, with comments by Hastings Turner.
82 Halford Road, Hillingdon, Middlesex. My dear Mummy and Daddy, it was a very long journey from Hunstanton to London. We had a carriage to ourselves to begin with, then a little evacuee boy came in all by himself and was put in Aunt's care. His name was John. Then later on some Air Force men got in our carriage. 2 sat down and 1 stood up in the corridor. Then he sat in the same seat as me, so I was squashed in the corner. Anne and I slept in the same room at Mrs. Hopkins. In the morning we went to the station and got in a little red train. That journey was not nearly so long as the last one. We walked from Hillingdon station to Sunny Barnes. Nan showed us the air raid shelter. Uncle Walter came in time for tea. Anne and I slept in a double bed. When Anne came to bed, the blackout was down, she thought I was asleep. She shut the door very quietly and got into bed very carefully so as not to wake me up. When she was in bed I laughed, and she said, "Next time I shall slam the door, bounce into bed whether you are asleep or not." She did not snore, but she took all the bed sheets, and when I pulled she took no notice at all. She said she was sorry when I told her. Uncle Walter is coming home for lunch, as it is a Saturday. Yesterday afternoon we went and saw the most adorable little Scotch puppy. It really was sweet. We went to the village this morning. Nan has got a tent in the garden where we sit. Anne sent her love to you both, and she says she will write again soon. I cannot think of anything else to say, so I must stop now. Much love and kisses. From Ursula. Hugs.
Our next document is a charming child's diary of boat trips on the Broads from 1924 to 1928. The diary contains written memories and illustrations, some by the child's mother and some by her father, Arthur H. Patterson, a local naturalist. Log of the Sprat, August the 4th. We went to Alton that day and found Sprat in the boathouse. There she was, brought her out and had the things put in her. August the 5th. I bathed in the Broad. Sprat had to go into the boathouse again. In the afternoon we went to Lowestoft by bus. We had ices at a shop at Lowestoft, and then saw a Punch and Judy show on the beach. Then we went home. August the 6th. Sprat had to go in the boathouse again. In the afternoon we got away and came to St Olave's. It began to rain when we got there. August the 7th. We had a bad night and it rained in the morning, but we got out later and gathered some heather. We went to see St Olave's Priory. We saw some old bits of glass there, and you got a lovely view from the top of the tower. We went away in the evening and got to Yarmouth. There was a horrid tide coming through the bridges, but we got in and moored in Yarmouth Yacht Station. August the 8th. Went to Yarmouth, brought a new book, saw a doctor about Daddy's hand, saw Miss Barber, had dinner at the Star Hotel, went back and started about 3 o'clock for Potter Heigham. We went on a long way and passed the Harrisons at Acle, went on to Potter Heigham. August the 9th, 1924. Bathed at 8 a.m. with Mummy. After breakfast wrote to Eileen and asked her to come and stay on Sprat. Got a lot of things from the market boat. We sailed in the dinghy in the afternoon. August 10th. We're going to church, but Mr Doherty asked us to go with him to Hickling, so we went. He took us to Horning Ferry in the afternoon and gave us tea there. August the 11th. Went shopping in the morning, got very hot. In the afternoon we went to Martham sailing in the dinghy. Had tea in a cornfield and went into Martham, where Daddy got a shave, as he cannot shave himself with a broken finger. Then we saw the church. It's got some very old glass windows in it, one of which had the picture of St Michael weighing the souls and the devils. One of the devils had tumbled out of the scales and was falling head first. When we got back, we found a telegram from Eileen saying she was coming on Wednesday. August the 12th. Bathed at 8 a.m. We took dinner and sailed up to Martham Broad, nearly to Somerton. It began to rain, and we sheltered in a coal shed. When the rain had stopped, we had lunch just outside the shed. We rode home after dinner. August the 13th. Met Eileen at Potter Heigham Bridge. We went for a row. We tried to see the water cat, but didn't see him. In the afternoon it rained, and we read and painted. August the 14th. We all bathed at 8 a.m. After breakfast got under way for Ranworth. Had dinner when we got there. We rode to Ranworth Broad and saw the Harrisons, who were just going off. We went to the only shop where we bought some nice things and went to the church. It was a nice church. After tea, Eileen and I rode races in the dinghy and shrimp. August the 15th. Went to Horning at about 2 o'clock and stopped at Horning Ferry for water. When we got up, Daddy, Mummy, Eileen and I went to find Daddy a barber. There wasn't one. Coming back, a big motor launch nearly capsized us, running into us. Daddy stood up and shouted at them because they were going calmly on without looking at us. They lowered a boat and rowed after us and rescued our oars, which we had lost in the commotion. I was sopped and had a clean dress on that very afternoon. Said it was all their fault and they could not see dinghies unless they were 150 yards in front of them. The hirer came round afterwards and took the dinghy to the boat builder, who said he could mend it. August the 16th. Took Spartan up to the Swan Landing to meet the car for Eileen. Daddy went with her to get a shave. We shopped at one or two of the 4 shops, and we got some milk at a nice dairy. We took Spartan up the river and moored her by a little creek, where we went into shrimp and went along the creek. We could not get over the boom, but got shrimp out and hauled her round. Mr. and Mrs. Silcock were not in. It began to rain when we came home. August the 17th. We were going to go to church, but it began to rain, so we stayed at home instead. Mr. Silcock came and asked us to tea. We went. There were 3 big girls there. It thundered after tea, but cleared up and we walked home. They brought their yacht, the Modwina, down after tea. August the 18th. Very wet. Went ashore for shopping in top boots. They hadn't got any milk at our dairy, so we had to wait until 4 o'clock. We saw the sows being milked. Got very sore heels. It has been a horrid day. The last letter is from Joyce to William Carr, a landowner and magistrate in Ditchingham in Norfolk. It was written in January 1925 and was found in an envelope labelled his granddaughter's last letters to him. He died later that year.
11 Sussex Place, Regent's Park. Dear Gramps, I hope you are better. I hear you are. Thank you so much for Kennyworth. I've never read it, and as soon as these other 2 get well, and Mummy is gonna read it to me. There's immense frogs in the park yesterday. There was a sort of a river flowing, the path formed by some grass of rather higher ground, draining across some other grass on a lower level. Round this last bit of grass, there was sort of mound, preventing the water from going any further. There's really another alternative road, but we persuaded Miss Go to go down the flooded one, and held John up between us, of the very wet part, thus. But in the afternoon, a plank was put across for people to walk on. After lunch, we went out with Mummy and crossed the flood, which was much worse now because it was raining so hard, by means of the plank, thus. After this, we met an old man that we had never seen in our lives, and to whom Mummy went up and said, "How do you do, Mr. Norland?" After they had cooked, he said, looking at John, "Is this the son and heir?" "Yes," said Mummy. "And this," signing at me, "is our eldest Gawker." "Oh," he said, still looking at John. "And would you like a shilling?" John mumbled something and grinned up at him. He fumbled in his pockets, but evidently could not find a shilling. He produced lots of 10 shillings and pound notes, and he handed 10 shillings to John, saying, "Here is a shilling for you," and giving 10 shillings to me, said, "Here is another for you." And then he said, after we had thanked him, goodbye, and went away. Wasn't this wonderful? Best love from Joyce. P.S. Happy New Year.